wanting to marry a Chinese man, this video is for you girls, especially if you are not from Asia, because if you're from Asia, let's be honest, Asians get better each other, just like Americans. Mexico, Canada, or Latin America, we kind of understand each other because we're Americans. And they eat rice, so that was a joke. Anyhow, this video is for everyone that wants to listen up. Yeah! So let's start with number 1. And by the way, as a disclaimer, this is based on the experiences that my followers usually share with me, because I have a Spanish channel where I will share, like, some are very lovely or horror stories regarding like Latinas going out with Chinese men, and they frequently have these issues. So I thought it would be a very interesting video for you to know, like, which are the frequent deal breakers of like being with a Chinese man. No matter, it's like, it can be lovely at first sight, just like every other man or every other girl. With time, somehow it's quite of an effort. The first one is in-laws. So if you're a Chinese watching, please confirm in the comment section what I'm saying. China does have this culture of like family connection, family like unity. It's very strong. And it's just like they have to be together. Like previously, back in the day when there was the one-child policy, it was very hard as a society for one man to take all the weight of the whole family in his shoulder. And how it worked, it was like there was this one guy who fell in love with this one girl, or sometimes they didn't even fall in love, they didn't even have the chance because they were arranged marriages. So they will go out, and the family liked the girl for the boy, so they will arrange the marriage. They perhaps didn't even meet the girl previous to that day. They will be marrying each other, and after that, that one guy will be taking care of, listen up, the girl or the new wife, as well as the parents-in-law and his own parents, because that was the one-child policy. So the parents, like his parents and her parents, will be not having more children. And because back in the day, women didn't work or didn't kind of provided for the family, still there are so many that do not work or provide. So it's his job and his duty to bring food, safety, comfort to the family, for himself, for herself, for the wife, as well as for the father and mother of the wife and the father and mother of himself. Usually they, 4 of them, the parents, will be living under one roof. So they will be living, let's say, in one apartment, 4 of them with the 2, like husband and wife, plus the one child that used to be born, like if it was one child policy too. So there will be living like 6, 7 people there. Yeah, is that 7? And he will be in charge of 7 people, like 6 plus himself. So that was a big load to have, you know. That's why Chinese are very hardworking. That's why they wanna somehow excel in anything that they do, and they know that they have to save money, they have to take good care of the family, they have to provide for the family. So they have this ancient philosophy of like, we have to do that because we are the men of the family. It's just stated. It was like that. Nowadays it's less and less like that because, you know, cost of life is getting higher, and they have this modality, just like in the West, called like AH, which is like 50-50, or like each one pays their bills. For young people, it's quite common that if they go out, maybe not all of them, they will like think it's fine to split the bill. Nonetheless, that didn't happen back in the day, and this was the system, how it all worked out. So my point here is like, once I was marrying, or you were marrying, or once you get to marry a Chinese, even nowadays, there might be a chance that his parents will still want to live with him, or he will want his parents to live with him because they're elderly and they have to take good care of them. They are very, very fond of like being with like parents and taking care of them. Not like in the West, whereas like newlyweds are very somehow separated from the parents. It's not like common. In Mexican culture, it's a mix. It's not that of like a separation, but it's not that of a togetherness. I mean, we don't have to stick to each other, but we don't have to be very very just apart from each other. It's like some parents live with the children and some try to avoid that. So let me know how it works in your own country. What do you like most? I think this is a problem. The main problem of the in-laws living at home or in the same home is that, let's say there were some times that the mother-in-law will be just teasing you and treating you not at its best. So you have to give her respect. And she is older than you, so you're supposed to listen to her, and your voice is kind of just gone. There's not such a thing as, it didn't feel like it was your home and you were like the new like Mrs. there. It was like her and her way of like cooking or her way of doing things, etc. Some of these times is not both of the parents living together, so the majority was like the girl will be moving to the parents of the husband, so she will be under the mother-in-law charge kind of thing. And so many of the girls like telling me their stories will be complaining about this issue, that once they got married, just until that time, they move to the like grandmother's home, not grandmother, sorry, to the mother-in-law home, and she was so mean and she was not kind and she was just complaining, and she somehow didn't accept her because she was foreigner or she was fat or whatever. So this can be quite a painful situation to be in. So therefore Chinese nowadays women are very smart, and they always ask, previously I also stated in some of my videos, what is your income? Do you own a home? So part of this like standards or requests from their future potential husbands is because they want and wish them to have like a place of their own, like an apartment or a home, so they can move there and not with their in-laws, because that'll be so uncomfortable and you will have to be always under the shadow of the mother-in-law. And by the way, there is also an issue with the in-laws, as for the mother, it's always somehow still like telling the son what to do, what not to do. There are so many stories where they tell me like, oh, his mother doesn't want us to do this, his mother doesn't allow him to like make these decisions, and so he doesn't have his strength decision at home. So it doesn't feel like he's the man in the house. It's more like he's just listening to his mom. So if you're moving with him, then you are also gonna listen to his mom instead of like him listening to you, you're like his wife, right? So that can be really uncomfortable, upon my perspective, like really uncomfortable. So the best thing to do is just to follow Chinese, like nowadays, how to say, matching requests. And if you happen to be in love with a Chinese man, it's better for him to own a place or to be willing to own one or to purchase a property in order for you guys to move there and to avoid moving with your in-laws, especially if you are so unaware of the culture, if you don't speak the language, if you don't want to live in China. So yeah, in-laws can be sometimes a pain in the ass, especially if you are not liked by them and you feel like somehow you are always a foreigner in their home, because they're gonna still be making things how they did it before you arrived. The mom's still gonna cook the favorite food of the son because it's his favorite food. So it's just gonna be so awkward. Like, you inside home, it's not your home. You cannot be like a homemaker because the home is already made their way, and you are a foreigner. You cannot change things. Back in the day, I was dating a Chinese guy, and he invited me to his city. That city was Wuzhou in the province of Guangdong. It was a kind of foreign free city, so everybody looked at me and they were taking pictures, etc. And his mother will be cooking always like pork and some like stuff that he liked, usually meats and such. I was not having a problem with that until it was very smelly, and until they started eating in the table and the bone, they started like throwing away the bones just like that, like psh. And I felt like, ew, because first of all, I'm a vegan, I don't eat meat, and I'm okay with people eating steaks or things that are not that do not have that pungent smell, but it was very smelly, and the whole scene of them throwing bones to the table or the floor, it was just not very pleasant for me to see or experience. And then I discovered, like, even though I would be, if I ever married him, I didn't, he already got married, he has a child, it wouldn't be me like coming here and making a home. It'll be me as a foreigner adapting to them, because there are three there, and it's not like I was going to live with them. He also mentioned he will be purchasing an apartment. Nonetheless, he was already having like his favorite meals done by mom, which I was not going to cook such and such meats. And that's a preference. Of course, there are some vegans that do cook like non-vegan meals, but it was just a little bit too much for me. Of course, love is love, and maybe you can love someone to the extent of like, it's fine with me as long as I'm with him. Well, it was not my case, therefore I'm not married with him. Anyways, what ended up happening is like, I realized it. I was going to be someone, like a guest inside their culture, traditions, home, like habits, everything. It was not going to be me here. Hello, people, stop doing that. It's not nice to throw away bones during like meal times. Or this food is just too smelly for me. Please, can you avoid cooking? It was not going to be pleasant for them either, for me to be like judging on them and also telling them how bad I felt about them doing what they did on an everyday basis for all their lives. So therefore, I thought this is not for me. But of course, there are exceptions. And let's say there are some Chinese that are abroad or that went abroad and have somehow contact with the foreign world. And they have different manners already. And they kind of understand better. They are more like, have more empathy towards one's culture. And like it's a 50-50. Let's say, okay, I'm Mexican, so it's going to be 50% of my culture in our new home. And 50% of your culture is not going to be fully like I'm doing things this way, and therefore I'm just going to be following that way because it's the way it is, especially if I was going to be living in China and somehow the in-laws will be coming, you know. So therefore I do believe it's better to start a new home somewhere with him, with the one you want, even if it's Chinese or not, and just create a new ambience and not you being inside like already system where it's just you're gonna feel foreign to that and you cannot change much things. So yeah, so tell me your stories regarding in-laws in China. Oh, by the way, his mom and dad were so nice to me, and I don't have any like complaint about that. It was just the whole how to say, just everyday life things that I knew I couldn't change and I didn't want to change. But they didn't align with the life I wanted to live. So number 2 is gonna be like, if you're a girl, you might have to get used to them going out to have like business meetings and coming very late at night, or not even coming back. If they are like sales staff, they are working in sales department in China, it's very common to go and have this intro, which is basically go on dinner nights with clients, usually 6 p.m. and after that they will have KTV and they will have alcohol, and then girls will come out and then they will go to massage and such happy ending massages that they call. And they also can go to like casino and bets, which is not very liked for my like upon my followers. They really complain about these issues, like, oh my god, he's a heavy drinker, now he's like gambling so much, he's going to casino every day, he already somehow is using my money. I'm not saying everyone is like this. I'm just saying, just be aware that if you end up marrying someone that is in the sales position, I mean, sales and gambling is different, but why is it that many Chinese have a gambling issue? Here in Mexico, I heard a lot of stories from girls, Mexican girls, that complain about their boyfriends or their lovers or their something having this gambling issue here in Mexico. Like they just have this addiction, and until the point that they are losing money, they lost all their money, and they're now betting the money of the women in the relation. So they are so annoyed by that, and somehow they can become violent if they don't have the money to go gambling. Why is it that Chinese love gambling? Let me know. Anyways, you have to sacrifice, or you have to accept the fact that he's gonna come late at night if he's in a sales position where he needs to go out every day for dinner and to like be with clients. Because if his clients wants to stay up late, keep drinking, go with girls, etc., then he will just have to accept that. So yeah, that's maybe a high price to pay if you are with a Chinese. Some Chinese women are already numb to that, so they are kind of like, yeah, this is common practice, I'm not gonna complain about it. He's my husband and I'm happy with him no matter if he comes late every day or he doesn't even come back until tomorrow, or he comes every day drunk. It's the way it is. So maybe for Latinas it's not very acceptable. I don't know for you girls, but yeah, of course, I'm not saying everybody's gonna be like that, but a big majority of Chinese that are somehow doing business do involve themselves in this kind of activities. So number 3 is gonna be that the Chinese food, it's very, very into their hearts. So you can take a Chinese out of China, but China doesn't come out of the Chinese. Even if you get to go to expositions, like let's say business expos, even here in Guadalajara or in Las Vegas, everywhere, you kind of see that at lunchtime somehow there is like this Chinese catering service that provides everyone with their lunch boxes with the Chinese meal, which is like rice, the like protein and some vegetable by the side. So they will order this in advance in order to avoid purchasing any like hamburger, hot dog, Mexican food, whatever they are in the world. They will usually prefer to keep eating Chinese food, no matter if they are traveling. Usually they are very not adaptable in regards to food. And of course, here you might be watching and you might be a Chinese living abroad and you will say, no, it's not true. I love like whatever food. In general, I'm not saying all of them. Let's say the big majority, maybe 70%, or I think that 70% is acceptable. There was this story of a friend of mine. He's a Mexican. He was living here in Guadalajara and he moved to China and he ended up being with a Chinese girlfriend. And he brought her here to go around Mexico, to meet his family, to go to the beach, to Cancun, etc. And she had for him one request. And every day he needed to prepare like a Chinese meal. Not like himself, but he needed to take her to go to eat to a Chinese restaurant, or he needed to order from Uber Eats Chinese food, or like there was a requirement that she needed to eat one meal of the day, either like lunch or dinner. It needed to be Chinese food. So it was quite like high expectation requirement. Of course, I am vegan. I'm also gonna have this request if I go anywhere. I'm not gonna request one meal of the day to be vegan, like fully vegan, but I'm not gonna be that picky about it. It needs to be like a Mexican vegan or like Chinese vegan. I mean, as long as it's meat free, it's fine, yeah. So I thought it was somehow a very high expectation to have, being like on a holiday trip, enjoying yourself, like having fun. Why would you be so hard on him or on you also? But it all comes to the fact that they are so very used to their culture and they are so like in love with their stuff to the bone. Like it's just very hard. Therefore, there are so many Chinatowns around the world and China supermarkets and Chinese restaurants, etc. So yeah, you have to deal with the fact that either he's gonna prefer to eat Chinese food, or you have to, or you will be needing to cook the preferred food for him. In this case, if it's Chinese food, then you will need to learn Chinese food cooking. Or if you guys are not in the cooking mood and he doesn't mind if you don't cook. By the way, many Chinese guys do cook, so that's a big advantage in this scenario, in this case. Let's say he doesn't cook and he expects to eat Chinese, then you will have to compromise to also like somehow please his taste buds and go to eat Chinese, just like this girl was requesting to eat Chinese on an everyday basis, at least one meal a day. So yeah, I'm not sure whether you girls are all okay with that. And also it really depends, not of all of the guys will be like that, but usually a lot of Chinese men are still preferring Chinese food. Anyhow, it's either he cooking the meal that he wants for you and for him, or you learning the Chinese food, new skill for you to cook for him and for you. Or if you guys are going out to have lunch or dinner, like just to restaurants, then either you are eating your own food and he's eating his Chinese food, or you have to like accept to go and join him to also eat together Chinese food. And also it works the same as for ordering food. Like let's say you are delivering Uber Eats and he's just wanting to order Chinese. Like most of the times, then either you are accepting to eat Chinese or you guys are eating just whatever, different foods. So yeah, that's a big issue. And it's not just about lunch or dinner. It's like breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Like they have different habits. Usually their 3 meals are like salty meals and they rarely eat sweet stuff. Just like us in the West, like breakfast is sweet, etc. So number 4 is going to be living in China. Some girls are not willing or wanting to go and live there, and some are really unaware how is it living there like until they arrive there and they dislike it so much and they start complaining about all these issues. First of all, the in-laws. Second of all, like he just transformed himself. Somehow he acts different. He's there, not the sweetie guy that he was when he was in my country. Now that he somehow possessed me and I'm so far away, like I'm talking about Latinas, many issues that has been coming from the stories of Latinas is that once they are there, somehow they act different, and yeah, that gets to happen. So maybe living in China, it can be somehow a fantasy until you are really living there and you are experiencing the whole life there. Especially if you're not speaking the language, it can be even tougher, like even harder. You not understand the language, you don't understand the people, they don't understand you, you want to cry, your home is far away, you cannot see mom. So you are willing to sacrifice being at home or being nearby your mom, your relatives, your siblings, to be going to China to live there with him and to accept all that is coming with him, like his family, etc., his language, his culture, his habits. So yeah, that's a big one. For example, in my case, even in my case that I liked living in China for a while, I'm not sure whether I will accept at this moment of my life to be living in China as permanently, because I have a pet now, and that somehow restrains me for like taking that decision. Yeah. So I would like to live in China maybe a few months of the year, but I will also want to live elsewhere. So I would like to meet someone that we can have that kind of agreement, like, yeah, let's live in China for 3 months of the year, and the rest we can live maybe in the USA, Australia, Mexico. So let's live in 3 countries year long. Yeah. So yeah, those are some really important considerations to have. By the way, so many Chinese that even if you are meeting a Chinese man abroad, he might be considering going back to China because his parents are becoming old, and somehow they have this attachment to take care of them. So this might be an issue for you. Nonetheless, the Chinese man that you met was like living abroad when you met him, when he was a student, when he was working. I have a cousin of mine that married a Chinese woman, and this woman recently just talked how she would like to go back to China to grow old there. And that was very impressive for me because her husband is my cousin and her children are living here. So that means if she leaves, she will be leaving husband and children. And she was like, it's fine, the children will be already old enough to be like dependent on themselves, and I would like to kind of grow old and die in China. And I'm like, Interesting. So yeah, that's something you have to take in consideration. Like if you will accept to go live there once you marry him and you go there, you don't end up liking the whole situation of being living in China. Number 5, to not understand Chinese language. This is maybe it's just a high price to pay if you are being with Chinese, because Chinese language and language is culture and habits and everything. Family, if you don't get to understand the language, then somehow you don't get to understand the culture, the background, the like why is it that they do what they do, as well as their families. Like you wouldn't be able to communicate with the mom, the dad, the whatever member of the family. Somehow you will always feel aside or a foreigner. So it would be better if you will learn Chinese if you are marrying someone from China, because somehow if you get to be, of course, if his English is very, very is like fluent, there shouldn't be a problem. But it's just very weird to see like many of the stories of these followers of mine, which I am mentioning. It's just not the case. Like they will have dates with guys over WeChat, and they use translator. Like she is from Colombia, she doesn't speak any English, and she's using WeChat to communicate with him that doesn't know any English or Spanish either. But through WeChat, somehow they are having their love fantasy or story. And really, seriously, everything gets just so messed up with translation. I don't understand how they think they're having a relationship like that. But anyways, some of them end up marrying. So it's not just a fantasy. Sometimes it does get real. And that's very scary for you to being with someone like in that kind of intimate relation, to the point of like marrying him or having children and not understanding him very well. I'm not talking about someone that is working and living in New York for 10 years and has a perfect English. But it would be, right? Like if you guys end up going back to China, then you will have the problem with Mandarin, that you are not very comfortable living in China because you lack of the language skill to communicate there, to be by yourself there, to communicate with his parents and his family, etc. So if you do not understand Chinese, it can be quite uncomfortable. I'm gonna tell you also this story. There have been some followers who discover they have lovers or they have like affairs, like their partners have affairs, their Chinese partners have affairs, and it all comes to language. Since Chinese do kind of live in a different world, I mean, they use WeChat instead of WhatsApp, they use like other social media, not like YouTube, Facebook, etc. Usually, of course, not all Chinese, but in China they have different socials, and they will have these other social interactions, and because they are so unaware of Chinese characters and Chinese everything related to language, they don't pay much attention of what is that he's doing, and they will take screenshots and suddenly they will be sending them to me, and I'm like, wow, he's talking to a girl, telling her like, hello baby, how are you, I miss you so much. I'm like, wow, and this girl is not you, so he must be having an affair, or some have discovered that these men have already girlfriends previously to dating them back in China. One discovered like he was like engaged and he was just flirting with her here in Mexico while he was getting married with this other women in China. And once he left, he got married to her in China. So in the meantime, he was just using her or like enjoying her for a year or two here. That's crazy. But she wouldn't catch somehow he was engaged, committed, or talking to someone, because they didn't understand the language. So he could be just chatting in Chinese through all these other apps, and they would, like, you girls can be so unaware of that. Especially because here, girls, whenever you stalk up men, if you wanna have more insights about his private life and such, you go to Insta and you check up on his profile. What is that he's following? What is that he's doing? And you can like basically very fast maybe get to understand he's following so many girls, he's liking this post, he's chatting with this girl, they're liking each other, like they put each other hearts or like comments. Well, for Chinese it's just different because they don't use this kind of social media apps, they use other ones, so you will be unaware of what is that they're doing in their world. So yeah, not speaking Chinese can be very hard, and I'm not saying or coming from the like place of like you have to speak Chinese in order to catch him if he's being unloyal. No, but yeah, it's just better understanding overall. So hope you enjoyed this video. Give this video a thumbs up, as well as be welcome to contact me through my contact info down in the description box and support me if you wish to. Kisses to the world. Bye.